This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
The biggest icon in podcasting.
Welcome in, everybody, to this week's edition of Doc and Jock. I am the Doc, John Macaroon. Back from holiday is my guy, Adam, the Jock Strozinski. Man, I did miss you, man. It went by. It went by quick. Lots to get to in regards to Detroit sports. Lots of good things finally for us to break down. But before we get into all that with Dan Campbell, Jameson Williams, the Lions, the Bills, the ruckus crowd that's going to be there at Ford Field, potentially one of the top crowds ever to see a Lions game. How was the trip, bro? Mexico treat you good? Looks like the federales didn't nab you. You didn't get deported. You didn't have to stay there. So all looks good?
Yeah, I didn't get abducted. Look, I stayed at a beautiful, all-inclusive resort. It was fantastic. It was great. Look, the whole reason I ended up going on vacation is we ended up having like flight credits. We had to go. Her brother ended up getting married, I think, in March. And at the time, we bought tickets through Delta, and then like Spirit had like discounted fares, so we bought tickets through Spirit, and then those ticket prices fell even more. So we had all this like reserve flight credit, and we had to use it, otherwise we were going to lose it. And we had like, I don't know, $500 in flight credit saved up. So on a whim, she was like, "You just want to go on vacation?" And I was like, "Not really, but we'll look into it." And then she found this beautiful resort, and we were able to use our flight credit to get there and to get home. And it was absolutely fantastic. It was a great time. It was, I'll be honest with you. You want a little story for the trip? Before the trip even gets underway, I almost did it. Don't get allowed on the plane. Spirit almost tells me you can't go. Me and this lady got into it from Spirit, and they're like, "Well, you can't go on the trip." And then they're trying to get Alyssa to board the plane without me. And she's like, "I'm not boarding the plane without him." It was a little bit of a mess. So real quick, we get to the airport. We get to the airport 3 hours early. International flight, get there early. Make sure you do your homework, get there early. We get there early. We walk in, and I'm like, holy fuck. Like, they're lined up deep. And Spirit's just a cluster. Don't ever fly Spirit if you don't have if you have a choice. Don't ever choose them. So they're lined up deep, and there's like zero organization. It's 4 a.m, and there's zero organization here. You've got a line for people to check in and go. They're generally domestic. You've got your international flights on another side, and sandwiched in between them are people who need assistance, people who are having problems. So you've got the zigzag line off on your left that is kind of full. You've got these 2 straight lines all the way back. One on the right-hand side is for international flights, and one in the middle of the other 2 lines is for people who need help with whatever documentation or whatever's going on. So we end up getting in the zigzag line. The lady's like, "Well, if you're international, you need to be over here." So now we have to get out of line, get over here, and we're waiting. And then they're just not moving. None of these lines are moving. The lady's like, "Look, if you're international and your docs say that they're okay, get in this line over here." So we get back into the zigzag line. So everybody who's in the international line now blows through because I brought new people up who were able to help and speed everything up. We're still waiting. So everybody who was behind us has now already gone through. We're still waiting. Dude, it took 2 hours. 2 hours to drop our bags off. Mind you, our documents were all fine. Everything was okay. We paid $8 to go through this express security check, which was great. Best part of all of it, the express security check was fantastic. Get through security. So now we're in the back. We're waiting to board the plane. And we're waiting probably about, I would say, it's about 45 minutes before our plane takes off. It's about 15, 20 minutes before our plane starts to board. So I'm like, well, let's go get some water. Let's go to the bathroom real quick. Let's kind of speed this up, whatever. So they end up starting to board the plane early. We're like, I don't know, maybe a football field, less than that. Probably about 50 yards down from where we're boarding at, using the bathroom and filling up our water bottles with some water from a water fountain. We walk back, like, okay, cool, they're boarding. So we get in line, and as we get to the front, we're like one of the last people. As we get to the front, they're like, "Your docs aren't okay." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" Like, what's going on? The lady's like, "We've been calling you." And it's like, there's no way you've been calling us, because we just got through. we've been basically here. You've not called anybody, so you weren't calling us. So we get out of line. They're like, go stand over there. So we get out of line. We go stand over there. And the one lady was like, there's a good chance that your bags have already been pulled off, and if you do get through, your bags won't make it. And I was like, what are you talking about? And I was like, I looked at Alyssa, and I was like, what the fuck is going on here? And she's like, she says our docs aren't okay. And this one lady's like, there's another lady up there who's helping people, and she's like, if your docs aren't good, you're not going to make this flight. And we're about to close the doors. And I was like, if you guys could just get your fucking shit together, we wouldn't have this problem. And she's like, you can't go. And she gives me this look, and I give her the same exact look back. And now we're having this stare down. She's like, you can't board the plane. And I was like, whatever, lady. Like, you're an ass clown. So me and this lady kind of get into it for a quick moment. Finally, they bring Alyssa off to the side, check her stuff. She's good to go. And I'm just standing there basically with a thumb in my butt, waiting to talk to the Karen who's running the Spirit Airlines to let you board. And finally, the other lady's like, come over here. So I walk over there. She scans my stuff. She's like, you need to apologize. I was like, for what? And Alyssa's like, just say you're sorry. And I'm like, for what? And the lady's like, if you don't apologize, you can't get on the plane. And I was like, sure. I was like, I'm sorry. I don't know what I'm sorry for, but I'm sorry. So they eventually let me on the plane. We were the last two people on the plane. It was bonkers, dude. Absolutely bonkers. Don't ever fly Spirit unless you absolutely have to.
Wow.
Absolute shit show just to get there. Then, this is what makes it worse. So Alyssa, she's like the most non-emotional chick you'll ever meet. She's basically a dude. She's honestly, she is a penis and balls away from being a guy. It's fantastic. It's like having a girlfriend who's like your best friend, but like your best guy friend. She's absolutely great at life. She's awesome. We're sitting in our seats because we're in the same row, and all of a sudden I look over at her and she's crying. And I'm like, what are you crying for? She was so pissed off. I made her so mad that she got upset because we almost didn't make the flight. And I was like, are you serious? She finally calmed down. I apologized to her, and she was like, all of this was a giant mess. She's like, it didn't have to go this way. She's like, you needed to be better, and they needed to be better. She was like, this was an absolute nightmare. And I was like, absolutely, you are correct. I should have been better, but they should have also been better.
Oh, my God. This is why I love doing this podcast with you, because now I can share with you what I was thinking when I asked you about telling me about Mexico. I was just going to be like, well, because, I'm on Twitter quite a bit, just, talking nonsense about sports. And obviously you see all the people filming the crazy people on the Spirit airline flights that are fighting, that are getting mad, that take their shoes off, that act as if. So I was going to ask you, hey, did you end up, coming across any crazy people? And that crazy person was you.
Yeah, it was me. It was me.
I was thinking to say, hey, did anybody run amok? Did anybody act a fool that had to get security involved? Oh, yeah, it was me. Oh, man, that is some funny shit. But no, I definitely am with you now. You would agree that I'm a patient person, but nowadays that is the least thing I'm patient with anymore is I am not tolerating incompetence, and I can't stand when in advance something's going to be fucked up, and what's happened to me lately is I tell people, no, I know this is what's been happening, it's fucked up, and people say, no, nothing's going to be wrong, and then eventually the thing that you were trying to prevent happens. It just pisses me off to say, see, look, this is why I spent 20 minutes calling, because I told you guys were going to fuck this up. You can almost predict when people are going to fuck up. Yeah, you couldn't. Listen, I don't care if I had 5 million points. I'm never sitting in a Spirit flight because, one, I'm claustrophobic, and two, it's like literally, like I said, not to disparage your trip, but that's a shithole flight. That's a shithole airline, and it's all bad news. All the people that try to get discount tickets, tend to be the people that will film you when you're doing shit, and all the marshals have to deal with shit. All the crazies end up on the Spirit flight. I don't care. I'm Delta. I'm United, and that's it. If that, I go once every 6 years in between flights. I don't want to deal with that. And that's the biggest thing is that you get there at 4 a.m. That should be the time where the airline should be the most on point, the most rested, the most professional, all the supervisors to get people, because people are going to be inherently tired. It's 4 o'clock. Nobody's on their right mind for them to tell you we're good. No, we're not good. It's fucking bullshit. You know what I mean? And you didn't deserve that. Alyssa didn't deserve that to start the trip, but it makes for a good podcast story. And now, it's always good to have to remind you every time you go on a trip, don't get your ass federal marshaled and cause seriously, you're on the brink. These people now are so fucking dumb that they act dumb. They are so inefficient. Then they ask you off the ability to fly. And you're like, what the fuck? I'm just responding to your guys' incompetence. Why don't you guys work on fixing your incompetence and stop putting my name on some list? You know what I mean? They should accommodated you and said, sorry for our fuck up. Please, sir, have a drink.
You know what? I'll be honest with you. If the one lady who was checking us in, if she wasn't so flippant about it, and she didn't,
Right.
she had a little bit of an attitude.
Yeah.
She didn't have her little bit of attitude, and she wasn't like, there's a good chance your bags aren't even going to make it where you're going. They're probably already been pulled. I probably wouldn't have went to that next level, but it was like I had already waited 2 hours just to give you my bags. Like I did all the checking in. All I had to do was give you my bags, and you had to look at my passport. That was it. Took me 2 hours to get through that portion of it. And then you want to sit there and you want to play games when I get to the line to get on the plane. At that point, I was kind of at my limit, and then her attitude made it 10 times worse, and then the other lady's attitude made it that much worse. I lost it, man. I lost it. I had a moment where it wasn't like I blacked out because I knew what was going on, but I couldn't be held accountable for whatever happened that I did. You know what I'm saying? Like, I couldn't be held accountable for the words that came out of my mouth. I couldn't be held accountable for the way my face looked, for my reaction to what I was receiving, because I was done, man. I had been up since 3:00. We had got there at 4. We did our part. We did what you are supposed to do. And it was through no fault of our own that we had an issue getting on the plane. And then to top it all off, what we had to deal with to actually get on the plane was unreal. And honestly, the whole apology thing, it was a pissing contest, and it was, just somebody trying to exude a little bit of power. And I'm just like, this is unreal. Like, I'm a grown ass man. You're a grown ass woman. What the F are we actually doing here? Like, how did we get to this point? Because this is just absolutely silly. This is stupid at this moment in time.
Well, thank gosh you made it back safely. That's the most important thing, because in the world of sports, it was awesome, man. It was nice to see the Lions go into the Giants, go into MetLife Stadium, and they kicked ass, start to finish. It was a good game plan. And I think that when you looked at it realistically, the Lions had a decent shot of playing well against the Giants. They had to go in and execute. And it was just nice to beat down a team that you knew had just really one weapon, and your goal was to stop that weapon in Saquon Barkley, and they did it. So to see that contest start to finish, it was relaxing because there was no real stress. When it got to 24-12, maybe you could say, oh, could the Lions blow it? But you looked at the defense, you're starting to see what makes a good football team, which was the ability to execute. Any opportunity that you had, because it was over the weekend, did you get a chance to watch football the week before or watch any sports there in Mexico? Because if you had an opportunity to take in any Lions football, the opportunity to see the Lions in the last couple of weeks against the Bears and the Giants has been really rewarding, because it's a football team that is playing better on defense, getting a couple extra turnovers, and now the offense running through Jamal Williams has just been glorious, man. I loved what I've seen in this 3-game winning streak, because Dan Campbell was on the brink. And now you have a football team that on Thanksgiving today is probably going to take an L, but at least we're going to have a good conversation about the matchup, as opposed to maybe back 3 weeks ago where we thought this would be an ass kicking. So this last couple of weeks with the Lions has been positive. The Lions have put together a nice little winning streak, cuz.
Yeah, absolutely. When I was in Mexico, I did get to kind of follow along. Our resort had a sports bar, so they had the football games on. Like, I got to take in the Thursday game. I absolutely got to watch the Lions massacre the Giants. So I got to take the football games in. I got to follow along. I got to keep up and keep track with everything that was taking place. And you're right. It's been a complete about face. It has been totally different than where we were to start the season. 7 games in, what were we, 1-6? So this has been a complete change of direction. And I think what you're getting now is you're starting to see a little buy-in from the team. You're starting to see Dan Campbell actually do what good coaches do. And I think that's been the biggest difference. I think with where this team has gone and with this 3-game win streak this team has put together, you're getting really good coaching from Dan Campbell. Remember, early in the season, the one thing that we bitched about, and the one reason that I went on my tirade and I was like, I'm done with Dan Campbell, it was because he was making the same mistakes over and over and over again. This past week against the Giants, team puts together a long drive, and they get into the red zone, and they're within the 10-yard line. and they get stopped on third down. What does he do? He doesn't go for it on fourth down. And it was a pretty manageable, it was fourth and something. It was incredibly manageable, but he doesn't go for it. Instead, he settles for a field goal. He takes the easy points. This is what we've been asking for. And then you fast forward in the game. It's fourth down, and the Lions are in their own part of the field. And instead of going for it on fourth and forever, he does the smart thing. He punts. He puts his team in position to win the football game. It was a lot of good play calling. It was a lot of putting your team in position to win games, and the team came through and executed. Dan Campbell basically come out in interviews and said, look, it's been executing in critical moments. And I think it goes for the coaching staff. They're the ones who have been executing in critical moments. Not so much the players. The players have been executing. The players have been trying to execute all season long. But I think the coaching staff doing the right thing and executing the proper game plan to help facilitate wins and put this team in position to win games has been what has been most crucial and has been what has been missing through most of the season. And it's showing up big time in this 3-game win streak. And I think it's absolutely fantastic. Now, while I was away, I did pay attention to what happened with the Lions. I did pay attention to that Bears game. And I'm laying in bed next to my girlfriend, who's obviously sexy and gorgeous, right? She's fantastic. I already explained to you she's a great person. She's essentially hanging out with your best friend all day long, but this one happens to wear thong underwear and she's stacked. So I'm laying in bed next to her, and this is, I think, what makes us a little bit different, John. This is what makes us a little bit strange. I'm on vacation, a million miles away from the Lions, and I've got a beautiful woman next to me wearing hardly any clothes, and my brain goes here, and I want to know if I'm damaged, and I want to know if there's anybody else out there who's damaged like me. Off the Lions beating Chicago, we get updated rankings on draft order, and I'm looking at where the Lions are now drafting, and in my head I'm like, man, they keep winning, and they look good, but this is going to really hurt them trying to find their future quarterback, trying to find that guy who's going to replace Jared Goff, finding that guy that this organization needs to build around. Is that messed up or what? Am I so damaged? And is it more of like a Stockholm syndrome where you're basically just been bludgeoned and beaten by the Detroit Lions, and you're constantly in last place, whether it's in the division or whether it's just in the league in total, that when this team starts to have some modicum of success, you're looking towards the draft and you're like, oh man, how does this win hurt the draft? How does this win damage what's going to happen for the future? Instead of just living in the moment and being present and being excited with this team putting things together, I'm looking down the line to the draft and I'm like, oh crap, this win just keeps moving us down. Now we're somewhere near 15. I was like, they really needed to be somewhere in the top 2 to get the quarterback that they needed. How broken am I? And am I the only person like this?
Oh my God, bro. That is so sad. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that that's what you went to. I'm surprised you just didn't roll over and say, hey baby, you want to do something? I mean, come on, bro. You're on vacation. What the hell's wrong with you? But, look, no, I'm the same way. I still check in, but I look at it from the perspective of, well, the Lions have 2 first-round picks, and once you started to see that, wait a minute, after the Bears game, the Rams pick is now higher than the Lions pick, and you're starting to see, I hope you now realize, too, that the Rams are all kinds of fucked up. Stafford's getting head issues all the time now. The offensive line is atrocious. They were way over-leveraged with what they did in order to secure their Super Bowl. So, in essence, cuz the Lions probably could finish like 7-10 this year and still have a top 3 draft pick. The problem is, and here's the biggest issue that I'm seeing, is Bryce Young has issues, CJ Stroud, Ohio State quarterbacks don't have the necessary potential history of having success in the National Football League. The problem, which sucks, and maybe is a blessing in disguise for the Lions, is there's not really a surefire Justin Herbert in this draft. Will Levis sucks. You're looking at Hendon Hooker. He blew out his ACL. So now you have the situation where, are you going to invest that much in Anthony Richardson? I don't think so. Maybe they do. Maybe they fall in love with him. But I think you can get him maybe at number 4 or 5 if that's the case. If you know, the draft works out in the pre-draft workouts and it's going to be CJ Stroud and the likes of Bryce Young and, you know, other defensive linemen that creep in. There's a chance, But I'm of the opinion, and I keep saying it, if Brad Holmes is a wizard, if he's the guy, then you find somebody that could be special in later rounds and you just load up on that defense and you find another bridge quarterback or you stick with Goff. I don't think that every option that you have, it's not as bad, it's not as punitive as you may think, because the Lions are going to load up on defense. They're going to free up a bunch of money in the cap. This football team is going to get better, but you're absolutely right. What burns me is every time that there's a Joe Burrow, clear-cut, number one, that's the guy, then the Lions are always in this middling position. It's happened throughout the whole course of our podcast that it just never lines up perfectly where there's a Joe Burrow and the Lions suck and they're tanking and they're doing it to go get that guy. There's question marks. So we have to have supreme anxiety with whoever the Lions eventually pick at quarterback. It's going to produce high anxiety because you don't know when he's going to get out in the field and actually will they have success at the same level now that Goff is having with the Lions. So you're absolutely right. It's crazy to think about, but it's the biggest thing that the Lions should be worried about is if Brad Holmes decides on a quarterback where and what is the skill set that he's looking for. Does he want a big arm quarterback that's like, Matthew Stafford, or does he want somebody mobile with a little bit of those kind of skills? Because there is no superback. There is no Lamar Jackson, maybe outside of Richardson in this draft that's going to come up. So it is crazy, bro. It is crazy. But you know what, cuz? What's it going to take for you to shift your mindset into just saying, look, man, winning is fun. It's been a great month of November. There's been no toxicity. When are you just going to appreciate winning and not look so much to the draft? I look at it, obviously, but I'm not as invested as saying, you know what, fuck it, I don't care anymore, because I have a little bit more trust that Brad Holmes can maybe, outside of the second round, I think Brad Holmes can pick some players that can do some things.
Look, I know this answer isn't going to satisfy, and I get it. But honestly, I need another Brad Holmes draft. That's what I need. Okay. I need to see what he does with this draft. And look, the one thing that has kind of put a lot of this at ease for me is the trade that they made to get Matthew Stafford out of here, to give him to the Rams, because the Rams pick keeps creeping up while the Lions pick keeps creeping down. That little bit of security, that security blanket that we have at the top of the draft is putting a lot of things at ease for me. And I do like the fact that going into this upcoming year's draft, they are going to have 2 high-end picks, 2 first-round picks to really help solidify this defense, to really help strengthen this team and make it better. But I need another draft with Brad Holmes. I need to see what he does in regards to a quarterback. I need to know what he's looking for. I think that's the one thing kind of where we're creeping into the deep end and we don't really know what to expect from Brad Holmes, because when it comes to quarterbacks, it is essentially Jared Goff. That's kind of the blueprint you have. That is what you've got to kind of go off of. He was very high on Jared Goff. At least all accounts, he was very high on drafting Jared Goff. You kind of see how that turned out in L.A. You know Jared Goff has some limitations. You know Jared Goff isn't Patrick Mahomes, isn't necessarily the prototypical franchise quarterback, the Joe Burrow, like you said. He's a guy who you have to build and insulate, and you've got to put talent around him to make him better. And look, I'm okay with the team going in that direction, right? I'm okay with spending that those 2 first-round picks on making this defense better, adding a couple extra pieces for the offense, so when they do get whomever it's going to be, they've got a much better team, and they don't need to rely so heavily on that quarterback. They don't have to lean and count on that quarterback so much. And I think that's probably the best way to build, right? Build the team first, and then you add that quarterback. You add that final piece. You get that extra guy to come in and kind of be the cherry on top. I don't think this season we're going to get that franchise quarterback. We're going to get that guy that we're going to build around. I think what's going to end up happening is Jared Goff, whether you like it or not, he's probably going to be your guy next year.
He's the guy.
He's going to be the dude under center. I think we have to kind of deal with that.
Yes. And here's the thing, too. Word is potentially when you look around the internet, because a lot of people like to look at where scouts end up on Saturdays. You know, people look at the NFL and they look at, which NFL team is sending which scouts. The Lions have seen Anthony Richardson, quarterback from Florida, on 5 different occasions. So they're doing their homework. I think that there's interest there because of his athleticism and his raw potential. I think there's something there that Brad Holmes is and that coaching staff is attracted to. So pay attention to that name. watch some film, see what you think about him, because Anthony Richardson might be high on the Lions' radar. And look, you have leverage, and no matter what, the Lions, if they find somebody that they like, they can make the moves. They have the capital, they have the ability to trade assets. And look, Brad Holmes is not scared to say, to throw out there, if I want this quarterback, I'll throw you a 2023, 2024 first round pick. He doesn't care, because remember, the Rams did it for the right people. The Rams were willing to move on from people to bring in a Von Miller, to bring in people that helped them win a Super Bowl. But right now the Lions are in a building phase, and it's positive. So I think that while your anxiety is high, I think we should just definitely take a look at this 3-game winning streak and all this positivity that's come from it, because there are signs. Like you said, Dan Campbell, what pissed us all off, what had us screaming through the podcast was, my God, take the fucking points. Take the 3 points. What do the Lions do? They march right down the field against the Giants. They pound the rock. They obviously stall in the red zone, which is going to happen sometimes. You kick the field goal, 3 points, and now you start rolling. And I think that Dan Campbell has learned. He has adapted. He has started to realize, okay, maybe I'm being too aggressive just for the sake of being aggressive. And he has adapted. Take the points. What a novel idea. And now you're starting to see, which I love from the Bears and the Giants game, is the other teams making mistakes, the other teams taking holding penalties, the other teams throwing the football to the Lions. I have loved seeing the opponent shoot themselves in the foot, especially knowing that Dan Campbell said going into those games, we have to make less mistakes. This is how you win. The attitude has changed with the Lions over the past couple of weeks, which is play cleaner and don't shoot yourself in the foot and see what happens. How many times would we see the Lions take 6 penalties for 100 yards, and every single time they had a good play, something bad would happen? Well, it happened to the Giants. It happened to the team that we all looked at and said, oh, Brian Daboll has these guys rolling. But guess what? They fucked up. They turned the ball over. They dropped the football. They put the ball on the ground. So it was nice to see, and it really rejuvenated a lot of people. A lot of people are like, you know what? This is good. The Lions are buying in. This is a young football team that's actually making some plays. And I think it's good that you recognize that despite the drop in the Lions' own draft pick, the 3-game winning streak was needed to build up belief that this regime could win some games. Because if you go into Thanksgiving, seriously, cuz if they went to Thanksgiving with 1 win, 2 wins, there could have been talk of just
you could have had a firing.
You could have had a firing.
You could have had the whole Mariucci situation all over again, where you go into Thanksgiving, team gets blown out, and next thing you know, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, you're looking for a brand new head coach.
Yes.
This is the one thing, though. This is the one thing that I've noticed with this team, especially through this win streak, and this has me incredibly nervous. This team offensively struggles.
Struggle bus.
Score points in the second half.
Yes.
And in a game like you're going to play on Thursday against an offense that can put up points almost at will. Like, I still believe, look, I know the Bills are a little bit down right now. I know the Bills aren't firing on all cylinders. But really and truly, when you look at the NFL, it is Kansas City and it is the Buffalo Bills. Those are teams 1 and 2. I don't care if you want to flip-flop them or not. Those are the arguably the 2 best teams, and 2 teams that can put points up almost at will on you if you're going to keep pace. Because I'm not sure where you're at with this game, but for me, I don't think they win this game on Thursday.
Nope, not at all.
But I think they have a chance to keep it respectable. I think they have a chance to be in this game. And the only way you're going to be in this game is by putting points up in the second half.
Yes.
And I think there might be a fatal flaw with the way this team is playing and with the way this team is going. When the second half rolls around, it seems like the ability to score points dries up. I'm not sure what it is. I'm not sure why it is. But this team comes out, and in the first half, they're able to hang freaking 25 points on you. Second half rolls around, they struggle to muster 7. And I'm not sure why that is. And I think that can come back to hurt this team. This is why I'm excited that this team is in the playoff conversation, right? When they show all the teams that are in the hunt, right? This is a team that is now in the hunt. I'm excited for that. But I can't necessarily buy into this team being a playoff contender or making it to the playoffs until they're able to kind of figure out their second half scoring issues, because the ability to put points on after halftime, it just hasn't been there. And I'm not sure if it's coaching. I'm not sure if it's execution of the plays. I'm not sure if it's the adjustments that the other teams are making, and this team can't counter-adjust. I'm not sure what it is. I'm not sure if you can shed any light on it, but I know you've noticed it. It was heavily highlighted in the Giants game. They talked about it. This team was able to put points on. They were able to score a touchdown in the fourth quarter, but this team, second half, it seems like the offense just dries up.
Well, because just like the start of the season produced a lot of injuries, Detroit potentially could get some weapons back. Romeo Quara in a couple of weeks might hit the field, which could provide extra depth for your defensive line, give Aiden Hutchinson a spell here and there in regards to all the pressure that's needed to be made against the opposing quarterbacks. And the big news that has put a lot of people, that really, cause to be honest with you, has driven a lot of traffic to all Lions. Everybody is clamoring. Everybody wants to know what the hell is going on with Jameson Williams. And now we get to see it. This week was a walkthrough time. Obviously, the team is recuperating from the Giants game, so they're not really running around full speed. But Jameson Williams is now out there, cleared to practice, can develop rapport with the Lions, can figure out, okay, how do I handle working against Amani Arawariye and Will Harris and obviously Jerry Jacobs. Iron sharpens iron. Jameson Williams is going to provide that, where right now, when you don't have that explosive threat, it really forces your offense to execute. You have to run the ball. You got to block well. When you can't run the ball, defenses have an edge, and that's just the way it is. But if you have that home run threat, if opposing defensive backs have to just take one or two steps back because Jameson Williams can hit a double move and boom, can be gone in the end zone, now we're talking about something that's going to change. And I think that's what the Lions have done, is they've acknowledged, hey, we struggle. We have to run the football. We don't have DJ Chark playing at the highest level. We don't have Josh Reynolds connecting with Goff at the highest level, but now we potentially do. So I look at it exactly right, that the biggest issue with the Lions offense is the lack of explosiveness. It just makes things a lot harder to execute, but now it could change. So yeah, against the Bills, look, even you look at it, if you don't get turnovers, if you don't play at the highest potential levels, if the Lions had Jeff Okudah and Josh Paschal and the full force of what they could, I would be much more in line with debating what's going to happen. But with what's going on, the factor that's going to dictate to me how this game goes is Josh Allen. Does he play well? The Bills will destroy the Lions. If he struggles, misses, just is a little bit off, maybe finds Kirby Joseph on a pass, then potentially you have an opportunity to win. But this game, come on, everybody thought it's going to be a win. I think everybody's overly optimistic that the Lions can play well. I just say assume it's a loss, enjoy the game, drink, and just hope that Dan Campbell doesn't influence the game in a negative way. But I look at it like a loss. Just don't get your ass blown out. And I think your concerns are very warranted when you look at the big picture. But week to week, cause they've been able to run the football. Jamal Williams has now earned himself millions of dollars for how he's played.
Yeah,
give him some credit.
Absolutely.
Now, I think we run into a clash because I think you're just overexposed to this football, and me too, because Michigan State wants to do this bullshit of running the football, pounding the rock. Michigan is trying to win a national title, playing 1980s ball. We certainly don't want to fucking see this on Sundays when we think I would rather, me personally, be the greatest show on turf and be like the Rams where they're scoring 40 points, throwing it to Cooks and Robert Woods and running free and galloping and striding and strutting, plodding down the football, run 6 yards, 2-yard screen to Amon-Ra. It's not the most pretty football to watch, but thankfully the opportunity to watch other high impact offenses can satiate your palate. The Lions are winning ugly. I'll take it, and I think what makes people happy is that they're getting respect for playing physical and putting some people on their ass.
Yeah, and that's the one thing I think you can take away from what we've seen, especially during this win streak. Defensively, this team has been punching you in the mouth. They have been absolutely physical. I don't know how many guys were basically laid up at the end of this Giants game. It was like every time you turned around, the New York Giants had somebody going out. It was just because the Lions were playing punch-you-in-the-mouth football. And I think if you can continue that, you could win with that. But the thing is, I don't know if you can win with that all season long. So you mix in this ground-and-pound run game with this smash-mouth defense, I think you can wear opponents down, and then you can start to take advantage of them in that fourth quarter. Again, you got to be able to score in that fourth quarter, but I think you can win football games. I don't know if you could win long term by trying to basically bludgeon your opponents every single week. At some point, it's going to take a toll on you. Look, Jeff Okudah is going to probably miss this game. And look, he is your best cornerback that you have. I'll be the first guy to say it. I've said it a couple times. I was wrong on him. He's been your best cornerback, and now you're going to miss him. And he would be the guy lining up across from Stephon Diggs, who is one of the best wide receivers in the league. So I think you've got this nice mix here, right? And I agree with you. We don't necessarily want to see plodding, grind you down football. I think the way this team is currently constructed, this is probably the best bet for them to get W's, control the ball, punch you in the mouth, wear you out, possibly take advantage of you in the fourth quarter. I think they don't necessarily have those big play explosive guys. I think getting a guy like J-Mo back helps with that and helps you be able to put points on the board and helps you have those explosive downfield plays where you can really stretch out the field. And then that helps open up things in the middle for a guy like Brock Wright, for your other tight ends, for guys like DeAndre Swift, who hopefully DeAndre Swift can come back and get more than 5 touches on a football. I have really no idea what the hell's going on with that situation. Either he's healthy or he's not healthy. If he's not healthy, don't play him. If he's healthy, I feel like he should be getting a few more touches than what he's getting right now. But I think the big thing coming out of all of this is right now you're starting to see an identity for this football team. This is something that me and you have asked for a while. This team has never had an identity. They've always wanted to try to do things, but it never really worked out. I think right now, especially in this small window of time, right, we're just looking at these 3 games, and if you want to look at a couple of other games on the other side of these 3 games, I think what you're getting is you're getting a team that, yeah, grit is important. That's what this coaching staff has preached for ever now with this season. It's very, very gritty, but I think you're getting a team that's willing to punch you in the mouth and play opportunistic football. And I think you've seen that with Aiden Hutchinson's performance this past weekend. I believe he did win Defensive Player of the Week this week. I think that's his second time this season. I'm wondering, I'm just putting this out there, I'm wondering if you're willing to come around and say Aiden Hutchinson was the right pick at number 2. Look, I know it's very early in his career, but you were a Kayvon Thibodeau guy. And you got to see Aiden Hutchinson and you got to see Kayvon Thibodeau this past Sunday. I'm just wondering if maybe you're coming around to the dark side a little bit and you're saying maybe Aiden Hutchinson was the right guy at number 2.
Yeah, I think he is. I think that he's athletic. I think he's got the swagger. I think he's challenging himself. Man, I didn't think the interception game, I didn't think that part of it was, seeing him drop in coverage was surprising. I think that as he evolves, they're actually willing to try new things with him, which is very good. I think that when you have a young player that has full potential and you're blending what he does well versus what Aaron Glenn wants to do, oh yeah, it's looking good when you see 5.5 sacks, 2 interceptions, impactful plays, and kind of provides that swagger, that defensive identity that you're looking for. Yeah, you got to turn the corner and you got to say, damn, this guy could be really in line to compete with Sauce Gardner to be the NFL Rookie of the Year. And, but I'm still going to put him behind potentially Kenneth Walker in regards to, man, wouldn't it have been nice to take Kenneth Walker and to have him on this team as well?
Dude. Oh, yeah. Offensively, he'd be a juggernaut on this team.
He'd be a juggernaut, but yeah, Aiden, I think is fine. He's earning every penny, and I think he's, almost have to say it, he's on the verge of, with 7 games left. If he can add 3-4 more sacks, now you can start talking about, okay, this can be a staple player. He's got to keep it going. He's got to still, clean up certain aspects because teams obviously have found ways to kind of push him out at certain points. You got to up the pressure. You got to up the pressure more. But to see what he's doing, if this is the starting point, Jesus, this is great. It can help to offset a little bit of the impact of Josh Paschal being injured, Levi, having the issue that he's had not getting on the field. So it's made it so much fun to look at the Detroit Lions where they're at right now. It's been fascinating. It's been awesome to see Aiden Hutchinson do these things, and it provides a great opportunity, hopefully, for this Lions defense against the Bills to play well. That's all I'm looking at. I know it's fun. We always talk about keys to victory. I just don't see it. I think I would be shocked if, maybe you have to say you got to have a rinse and repeat of what happened against the Giants. You got to have Aiden force a turnover. You got to have Kirby Joseph with an interception. You got to hope that Josh Allen's a little bit off. But the one thing that I can throw out there as hope is, for whatever reason, teams playing on Thursday, it's just never as clean. It's just never as perfect. Like, if this was a Sunday game, if this game was going to take place in 4 days and the Bills had the full opportunity to rest and recoup, same with the Lions, I'd predict a 14-point blowout win by the Bills. Because it can happen where you ride that momentum from playing just on Sunday, that short rest. If you can just draw some kind of energy from the crowd, turn it around just a little bit, force a little bit of your will on the Bills, I think you can make this a fun game. And I think you're going to hear the people at Ford Field really jack up what the Bills are going to try to do. It's going to be loud. It's going to be ruckus. And I feel like, if the Lions held on and were able to get a close win, now you're cooking with fire. Now we can even bring up the P word in our post-Thanksgiving episode. So I'm not going to do it yet. I'm going to chamber that P word, but I'm loving the opportunity at least that we can talk about schemes and competing and the talent looking like they can match up. To see, Kirby Joseph get those interceptions, to see Jeff Okudah whacking people and making plays, and to see the Lions actually say, we're not happy with the secondary, somebody's getting fired. When does that happen? Now, of course, Dan Campbell gets the blame for putting that guy in that position if he's not, qualified, or maybe when you saw the issues last year, maybe you could have made that move at the beginning of the year to be a little bit more aggressive so that you don't start off 1-6. But you made the move. You've made tough decisions. You say, hey, it's not working. You're fired. Do you know that single decision could set the tone, because the defensive team got together and they had a meeting and they said, oh shit, what are we doing? Our play's getting our coaches fired. That just might be the sentinel event that could kick off a run for the ages. I can't wait to see it, but I just can't see it. I'll be having cocktails, covering the game, or so, and enjoying a bunch of food. And I just don't see any pathway where the Lions win this game.
Yeah, I don't think they win this game either. But what I do think is they need to keep it close, right? You just built up all this momentum with these last 3 games. You've got this fan base and you've got this town talking. You've got this town buzz, right? You've seen a guy like Aleem McNeil come out and basically play his pants off on Sunday. You need to ride momentum like that, right? And we've talked about it before. Momentum doesn't usually carry over from game to game. But you need to ride that wave of good feeling, that wave of energy, and you need to bring it into this game on Thursday. And you're right. I think if this game was played on Sunday and this game was played on, say, a neutral field, I could see the Bills absolutely jail-sexing the Lions. But I think Thursday, Thanksgiving, I think this team is bought in. I think this team is maybe playing a little bit above its own head right now. And I think this team has a little bit of mojo, has a little bit of juice, and I think that can help carry them in this game. I don't expect them to win this game at all, but I do expect them to keep this close. I do expect this to be a good game. I do expect the Lions to get punched repeatedly in the mouth, and I do expect them to fall to the mat, but I also expect them to get back up, and I expect them to have a chance to possibly tie this game very late in the fourth quarter. I don't expect them to do it, but I think they have a chance to do it. And the only expectation I have in this game, because look, I already told you once, it's Kansas City and it's Buffalo. Those are the 2 teams that should be on your list to win the Super Bowl right now, right? These should be the 2 teams, whether it be 1A or 1B or 1A and 1A. It doesn't matter. These are the 2 teams. These are the best 2 teams in the NFL right now. And the sad thing is they're going to have to meet to get to the Super Bowl. Any way you cut it, this is a measuring stick game. This game will tell you how close the Lions are to actually being either a playoff contender or a Super Bowl contender. It's going to let you know what the outcome of this game. And I think this team rides that wave of energy. I think they lose, but I think they play well enough, and I think they keep it close in this game. And like I said, it's sad because we've had so much good stuff to talk about. We didn't even get to touch on Aleem McNeil's great game against the Giants. He played his ass off, looked outstanding. That was the guy that you brought in. That was the guy that you drafted, and he's playing his butt off. And it makes guys like Aiden Hutchinson look that much better. So I think if you can get a big effort from those 2 guys on defense, mix in a couple of other guys, keeps it close. I think Thanksgiving can be fun. Do not expect a win, though. Do not. I don't think we're not there yet, guys. We're not there.
So, cuz, is it time to expect a win for the Wolverines this weekend?
Nice segue.
Because I think that it's, you can talk about it. I think that after what we've seen, and one factor that I think makes this game a lot more juicy is the weather. Given that if it's not going to be 50 degrees and sunny, if there's going to be some inclement weather, a little bit cold, if it's perfect weather in California, I think Ohio State rolls. But if you can get this down in the dirt, the nitty gritty, listen, I'm not going to lie. Okay. Obviously, I don't think that it will come to no surprise that Michigan State fans really don't want Michigan fans to have, a perfect season going into the playoffs. We don't want that. So when Blake Corum got hurt, I never wish injury on anybody. I was just like, oh, that's just, you hate to see it, because I want to see Ohio State kick Michigan's ass. That's what I want to see. And it's not terribly surprising. Nothing wrong with saying that. But it really is, starting with that injury, how scared were you when you saw Blake Corum go down? Because you see Michigan season go right down in front of you when you see a player of his caliber grasp his knee.
Yeah, look, I was watching that game. I stopped it, rewound it 6 times.
Yeah, you're like, it's a Bruder film.
Dude, if you are a Michigan fan, your heart stopped. I had a buddy who was watching the game as well, and he texted me. He's like, season's over. We're planning to meet up for this game. We're planning to go out and watch this game together. And he's like, don't even bother showing up on Saturday. He's like, season's over. So that's how big of an impact Blake Corum's injury is. That's how meaningful Blake Corum is to this offense. And I think this offense is probably the biggest issue with this Michigan team, and that's why I don't expect a win on Saturday. I think this team offensively is just a little too one-dimensional. You lose your best player. You lose a guy who they're talking about being in the Heisman conversation in Blake Corum. It's really hard for this team to kind of muster anything after that. You know what I'm saying? You've seen what this offense did against Illinois. Look, Illinois, a very good defensive team. But this team struggled to move the ball. This team has struggled all season long to put the ball in the end zone. So now you lose your best player, and you couple that with a quarterback who has struggled to get the ball downfield and make completions downfield. You couple that with wide receivers who really haven't shown up this season. I think it's been a little bit of Ronnie Bell, but nobody else. You don't have anybody. There's nobody who has basically taken the reins and said, I'm either the number 1 or the number 2 option as a wide receiver. So when you lose a guy like Blake Corum, and look, by all accounts, I think Blake Corum's playing. I think it looks like Blake Corum's going to play, but I don't believe he's going to be 100%. So I don't know what you're going to get. And you lose your best player on offense, and he's coming in banged up. I don't know what you can expect from this team. You know what I'm saying? I think the biggest issue with this team is the way it has been put together. And you and I have talked about this a couple of times. We really haven't done a whole lot of Michigan State this year, because Michigan State has been kind of ho-hum, and Michigan, there's nothing really exciting. They started the season playing Sisters of the Poor, and then you got into the Big Ten season, and the Big Ten season has been a little bit better than Sisters of the Poor. It's been more Sisters of the Needy. So it's not really been a whole lot there, but you look at the way the offense goes, and it goes the way Blake Corum goes. If Blake Corum is having a great game, they're going to win by a couple of touchdowns. If he is struggling to find the end zone, it's going to be a little bit closer. And this offense is constructed so one-dimensionally that it is ground and pound. It is feed Blake Corum. Let him get 25, 30. If you have to give him 40 touches, he will find the end zone. And it's a good thing you got a really, really great kicker in Jake Moody, because that's the only way you're putting points on. It's Blake Corum and it's Jake Moody. There really isn't anybody else. Look, if Edwards can play, cool, but I don't even know what the hell's going on with him. I don't know what the problem is with him. It is offensively, this team is frustrating, because I do feel like this team defensively, without the star power, is better than last year's team. Offensively, I don't know if they're any better. I think Blake Corum is a standout player, and I think he's having a great season, but I don't think you have other weapons, and that's my big concern going into it. I'll be honest with you, and I would love your opinion on this. I don't know if JJ was the right choice. I don't think at this point JJ was the right choice for quarterback for this team. You've seen none of the explosive plays that is supposed to make him special. You don't see the arm, the cannon, the thing that was supposed to help separate him from Cade. You don't see that at all. I don't see the smart decision making that Cade would do, right? Like, I see JJ throwing into double and triple coverage often, trying to squeeze the ball in there. And I think he's been very fortunate that he hasn't turned the ball over more. I feel like those passes have either been dropped or have been batted down, or the offensive player has made a play to salvage an interception that could have happened. I don't know if JJ's the right guy. So unless something miraculous is going to happen in a week and they take the reins off of JJ McCarthy and all of a sudden the wide receivers figure out how to start catching balls, I don't know if offensively this team's in a better spot, because I do not believe in JJ McCarthy as a quarterback. I think if Cade McNamara was your quarterback, I think this team would be in a much better spot.
Yeah, and it goes to a couple things. How much do you put the play of the offense in terms of the lack of explosive passing on J.J. McCarthy, or is it the fact that, and for me, my reasoning is it's on the coaching staff. They don't want, what they need is what they're getting from J.J. McCarthy, and what they love about him, all that they've done is they've said, okay, we've kind of taken out Cade McNamara, and we've put in J.J. McCarthy. What we love is when we need to take advantage of his legs, we can, but they don't want his arm. They literally are telling the fan base, we don't want his arm. And that is dangerous when you're looking at.
That's crazy to me, right?
It's crazy.
If you want the guy to basically play check down mafia.
Yes.
Why put JJ in there? Just let Cade go in there. Cade could run the ball. He wasn't as elusive as JJ, but I would take smart decision making and being accurate with the ball and being accurate in those middle passes, right? So not so much the passes out to the flat, right? Those passes between the line of scrimmage and the 5-yard line. But those intermediate passes between the 5-yard line and the 15-yard line, I would take the accuracy from Cade with those passes and whatever he brings you with his legs compared to what JJ can bring you with his legs and what he was supposed to be able to bring you with those passes 20 yards down the field. Because I'm not seeing it.
Yeah, you're not seeing it, and that's what it is that when he's been required to, I mean, he missed open receivers, cause this is bad. He's sailing passes that you don't want to see. You don't want to see high passes against Ohio State. You need to complete the situation. And so that's what is going to be tasked with J.J. McCarthy. And that's the biggest question is, even though you haven't shown it all year, did you practice enough? Are you going to be in sync enough with your receivers that when it's time to call upon the offense to make plays, can you execute? That's the biggest question. And it's hard to answer. If this game obviously is at Michigan Stadium, you're more inclined to think that J.J. McCarthy will step up and play his absolute A-plus game. I just think that with Ohio State, you're going to have to stop Harrison. You're going to have to stop Stroud. You're going to have to stop, obviously, their run game. And I just think there's too many weapons for Ohio State right now for Michigan. And for me, the crazy part is that Michigan has chambered deep plays. They're going to take chances, fake punts. They're going to pull out all the stops. Is it something they can execute on a day when they need to do it most? Because you haven't seen it. You would think, okay, against Illinois, maybe you chamber a couple things. Against State, you try a couple more things. But, for me, I'm more inclined to display more of those things all throughout the year than to call upon J.J. McCarthy at this point in time. I don't think you could just pound the rock against Ohio State and win the football game. So for me, I'm looking at this contest as being real close, but it's going to be a 6-point victory in the neighborhood of 30-24. Ohio State's going to win late. It's going to be a good competitive game, smash mouth. I can't wait to sit down. I blocked off so much time this week to watch sports. This is must-see television. I can't wait to watch it. Obviously, I don't want Michigan to win, but I think that what more can you ask for? 2 11-0 teams handling business with everything on the line. Oh my God, is this juicy? Is this the game to watch? That's how I see it. I just don't think that with J.J. McCarthy, I don't think they went with the wrong guy. I'm thinking that they're coaching him wrong. He has the skills. The framework of what you want, he has. He's got legs for days, got arm talent, got recognition, he's got the swagger. I just think that for me, the over-reliance on the run game has stalled the offense in the red zone and has made it so that you are going to be, at this point in time, asking a lot of your quarterback in a must-win game that you haven't put him in the position to succeed as of yet. You're going to be calling on him, hey, step it up, do your thing right now, and let's see if he can do it. I'm of the opinion he won't.
Yeah, I'm kind of in sync with you where I don't know why you would kind of holster half of your offensive playbook so you can unfold it in one game. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, I feel like you should be practicing some of these plays. I'll be honest with you, man. I've been highly disappointed by the wide receivers on this team because they've had chances to make plays and they have not. I've also been obviously disappointed with the play of J.J. McCarthy as the season has kind of gone on. But look, I think this is also going to be a close game. I'm expecting Smith and Jigba to play in this game, and I think he'll be a bit of a difference maker. I don't think Ohio State's defense is very good. I think they can be taken advantage of. And I think that if you had a bit of a better offense, a more explosive offense, or an offense that was clicking on all cylinders, this game would be totally different. I think having a injured Blake Corum or a hobbled Blake Corum coming into this game, not knowing what's going on with Edwards, having wide receivers that I feel like they have played very little this year. Like, I know they've been out there for snaps on the field, but the offense has not gone through the quarterback and through the wide receivers at all in any game this year. And I think that hurts, especially when you get into games like this, into games that are important, that are meaningful, games when you have to put points on the board in order to win. And I just don't think that the offensive fluidity is there with the wide receivers and the quarterback, and much less the tight ends. Look, last week against Illinois, there were plays to be made and plays to be had with the tight ends, and guys just dropped the ball or JJ just completely overthrew them or underthrew them. So I don't think you have the reps there. And if you don't have those reps there, it's really hard to just figure it out one day, especially when you're going up against the class of the Big Ten in Ohio State. Honestly, the Big Ten, it is the Big Two and everybody else. It is Ohio State and it is Michigan. I don't think Michigan wins this game. I think going into the shoe, I think it makes it that much harder to come away with a victory. On top of that, the offense just isn't on par with where it needs. I think they can put some points up on this banged up, beat up, low grade Ohio State defense, but I don't think they can do enough to come away with a win. I'm in similar boat as you. I think it'll be a close game. I don't think Ohio State wins by any more than 9 points. I see the score playing out 24-32. I think it'll probably be an 8-point game.
All right. Now, we would have loved to have gotten out of here, but it's been reported, so we got to give it another 5 minutes. Tough news that has just broken. 7 Michigan State Spartans have been charged in the Michigan Stadium tunnel brawl.
Holy cow, really?
One has been charged with felonious assault. Kerry Crump has been charged with 1 count of felonious assault. Brown has been charged with 1 count of aggravated assault misdemeanors. Angelo Gross, misdemeanor. Justin White, misdemeanor. Brandon Wright, misdemeanor. Zion Young, a misdemeanor. And Jacoby Windman, a misdemeanor. The others are all in the realm of aggravated assault. Kerry Crump is getting, I have to make sure and I'll double check it, but I'm assuming he's the one that swung the helmet, charged with 1 count of felonious assault. So we'll look at that, and I have to ask, did they open a can of worms here that they can't put back? Is this a legal matter? Because it happened in the tunnel. You see what's going on. They threw the book at one of the Michigan State Spartans. No Michigan players will be charged in regards to this matter. Is this the right thing to do? To send a statement potentially that this kind of behavior will never be tolerated again?
So I don't mind making a statement in saying, look, this is unacceptable. I do feel like this is maybe a little over the top. I feel like this maybe is a little excessive. I don't necessarily, I'm surprised at the number. 7 players? That's wow. Crazy. The one who swung the helmet? Sure. Throw the book at him, make an example of him, right?
Yeah.
I don't necessarily believe that you need to lump 7 other individuals in. I think there could be a slap on the wrist. there could be something worked out here. Look, using your helmet as a weapon, whether it was in an athletic endeavor or not, is just unacceptable, right?
Yeah, man.
You're talking to a guy who regularly has lost his cool playing sports and has done dumb things. Most recently, currently I'm on suspension from hockey. I haven't played all season. I have a whole season suspension because I got into it with a referee and I almost picked up a garbage can and used the garbage can on him like old ECW days. So I am regularly a guy who goes a little too far, and I think 7 players is excessive. I think using the guy who swung the helmet, he should be the guy who really has to pay the most. But I think with the other guys, a slap on the wrist, some type of disciplinary measure, sure, but this just seems a little too excessive to me.
Yeah, it's tough, man. It's tough to see the whole situation. You're starting to see a little bit of an adjustment where Michigan has allowed the opponent to kind of completely walk into the tunnel and get all of their players there, as opposed to the changes will be made. It stinks to see legal action being taken, but you have to be accountable for your actions. If you're going to fight and you're going to, go into a matter, you got to be careful. And you got to be careful too, man. You've been, I'm saying you're probably like 25 incidents deep here with no repercussions.
Oh yeah.
You're about due for one here. And I ain't about to be, representing you in court trying to be like, look, he's a nice guy, good family person. But Mr. Macaroon, we have you on tape saying on 50 different occasions that Adam has yelled at this person, has chipped a tooth on this person. Is this you also laughing at Mr. Straczynski, discussing the fact that he whipped this guy's ass and beat him down and called him the scum of the earth on your syndicated podcast? Well, yeah, sort of, but I still think he's a good guy, and I think that you should be lenient. Okay, Mr. Macaroon, thank you for your defense. It's, we got to be careful with that anger, man. I mean, look at that. You got yourself into brawls with an official. You got yourself into a brawl with Spirit. Maybe it's you. Maybe you have to turn.
Oh no, it is definitely. Look,
maybe it's you.
I'm self-aware enough to know where the problem lies. I know it's me. That's why I have a standing weekly appointment with my therapist.
Yeah. Oh man,
I've come a long way with some of these anger issues.
It's very much interesting how this episode came full circle from you cussing out Spirit to the felonious assault charge on one of the Spartans. And with that, we have to bring this podcast episode to a close.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Happy Thanksgiving. Adam can't record anymore because now he's going to go yell at his dogs. So
I've already done that.
For Adam the Jock Straczynski, I am the Doc, John Macaroon. Happy Thanksgiving. We appreciate and are grateful for all of your listens, all of your banter, all of you. Even if you call us dumb and hate my takes and hate my questions, it's fine. I understand and appreciate where you're coming from. Twitter's not going anywhere, and neither is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network, going strong for a decade. And as long as there's social media and the platform to podcast, we will be here doing it as we trek toward 500 episodes and beyond. See everybody next week. Gobble, gobble, motherfuckers.